I recently picked up and played a game called Hill, the console edition for PS4, PS5 cross-buy in sale. This is a side-scrolling point-and-click adventure that I think is going to appeal to a very specific demographic, but I just so happen to be in that demographic at this time. Because the creator of this game, who also made the Distraint series, kind of specialises in fear and dread of everyday things and turning them into like a light psychological horror game. I wouldn't say that like this is jump scare or creepy or anything like that. It's just slightly unsettling and with a disquieting mood that kind of makes you think about things. And that's what Hill tries to do. In this game, you play as a granddad or an old man who is wandering through these side-scrolling point-and-click adventures, solving different puzzles as he goes through different areas of his house or the garden or wherever it is that you've taken him to. Each level has very different puzzles, and some of them involve like trying to line up certain symbols into like a crosshairs, or it could be manipulating orbs of light to bounce off of certain numbers, or like lighting up all of the different symbols in a panel or something like that. There's a couple of like solve the code type things that then unlock a key to get you out of a room, for example, those types of things. Nothing is particularly taxing, but there is variety here, which is good because the game is actually really quite short and it never really does the same thing twice, which is to its advantage. The reason why this game really kind of made me think, though, was less around the puzzles and the oppressive nature of this game, which comes out through the autonomous graphics, the way how the sound design is quite thickly dense and really moody and oppressive as well. But it's the subject of it, and this is probably me reading more into the game perhaps than what it's trying to do. But the old man is trying to cultivate or deal with the memories of his wife who has passed away, is what I've taken from this game. And it's interesting because where my dad is terminally ill, we got like about 18 months left, which is great because we've got a long leading time. To some degree, it's great. It depends on who you talk to, really, as to whether that's great or not. We're kind of wrestling with this whole, like, okay, what do you do with the time that you've got left? But then what do you do with the memories afterwards? And I think this game will probably hit differently if you've had to deal with the death cycle or are in the death cycle of something, rather than perhaps not really being too hung up on that. Because otherwise I think you'll find this game really depressing, quite slow-paced and boring. And I think it's trying to go for a meditative experience, but actually becomes quite slow and arduous to kind of get through, if that makes sense. Some of that isn't helped by the fact that the controls that have been ported from PC to console still feel like they would be better with a mouse and keyboard. But yeah, this is an interesting one. I don't think it's for everyone at all. There are cheap and easy platinums if you want them, especially if you've got a guide out there to wander through. But for me, it was more about the feelings and thoughts that I took away from the game afterwards, where I thought, okay, that was interesting, because it's all around how does the old man kind of feel at peace with the ghosts around him, and it doesn't really reach a proper conclusion and just kind of leaves it all hanging, but leaves you to think about it afterwards and maybe how you would do things differently or better than the old man in the game.